Hey guys, Mr. La here. I'm giving you guys a little tutorial video on how to use CutStudio. CutStudio is a program that we use to design stencils, stickers, t-shirt designs, etc. So this is a pretty important program to use, especially with my vinyl cutter, because we'll be using this vinyl cutter to create stencils for airbrushing or screen printing. We'll also be using this to create stickers or to create designs that will cut into heat transfer vinyls, which we can then heat press onto a t-shirt or any other fabric clothing that you guys choose. So in this video, I'm just going to be going over the main functions that we use quite often in CutStudio. And I'll also be showing you guys what I expect for your sticker design. There will be a follow-up video on what I expect for your t-shirt design, which we'll also be using with CutStudio. We'll be designing with CutStudio. So for your sticker design, all I want from you guys is a font and an image that represents you. So the easiest one that you guys can go with is obviously your name. So I'm going to go with Mr. Let, and then I'll show you guys later how to put an image on here. Before we get into all that mumbo jumbo, we are going to talk about how we should be setting up our page. First of all, if your page doesn't look like this elongated rectangle like I have, don't worry about it, because you guys were not your computer was not connected to the vinyl cutter. My laptop has been, so I have the setup page for what it would look like to be connected with the vinyl cutter. Don't worry about it if yours doesn't. Your design will still be the same. The size of the design will still be the same, but once we actually connect that file to the vinyl cutter, you will get a page like mine. Second, if I create a shape here, as you can see on the side here, all my shapes are in inches. If yours is not, and you want to work with inches, you probably should be, because my vinyl cutter is set to inches. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Preferences in the middle here. Click Preferences. Make sure that the unit is changed to inch. You can do a lot of other customization here as well. Like for instance, instead of having a grid, you guys can have points for your background. You can change the tolerance of your curvature for your points and your lines. We'll explain that a little bit later. And you can also change the color, so we can get really fancy here. I'm not going to do too much there. I'm going to press OK. So you can see that my background is now points rather than grids. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete this box here. You don't need this right now. We're going to work with font tools, or text tools, sorry, excuse me. So I'm going to select this text tool here, and I'm going to go ahead and type something here. So I'm going to go ahead and type Mr. Les, so you guys can go ahead and type in your name. If you guys look to the right here, you guys should have a window here. In the window, there should be 5 different tabs: position, links, format, size and shape, and line style and color. If you don't have this window, oops, you accidentally deleted this window. Oh no, where's my window with all my properties? Don't worry about it, you guys. Just click properties. It's that easy, right up here, and your window should reappear. If you like to organize yourself where you have multiple windows, you can just click and drag these tabs away. And again, if you happen to accidentally delete one tab, and then, oh no, I only have position, links, line, style, and color, just click properties. The rest of your windows will pop up. Me personally, I like to work with just one window. I like to see as much of my space as possible, so I like to have it on one window. You can also change the size of this guy, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, cool. Now, choosing fonts. I'm going to show you guys a little shortcut on how to choose fonts, because I'm a picky person. I like to explore my options here. So when I select the select tool here and I select on my fonts, I can make this guy a little bit bigger here. In format, in fonts, I'm going to click in my font and I'm going to choose one of these fonts. So it's highlighted blue. So I'm on Arial Baltic right now. Ew, boring. I don't know if I like that. Now on the keyboard with the directional pad, I'm just going to click the down and up buttons. And the down button is what all I'm doing is I'm just pressing the down button to kind of scroll through the different options of fonts that I like. You guys can go ahead and choose whatever font you want, obviously as long as it's legible. So I'm going to keep going through here, trying to find a font that I happen to like. Ooh, I like Dope Style. Pretty sweet, pretty dope if I do say so myself. Now, you can download fonts. You go to dafont.com, and I'm here. You can go ahead and install one of these fonts, and it should end up appearing in your CutStudio. If you look through here, there's a lot of different fonts that you guys can choose from. If you don't like one that happens to be in here, download a font that you do like. It's that simple, alright? Alright, so I'm using the fonts. Now, I'm not going to go through every single formatting technique that you can do with your words, but I'm going to go over some of the main ones that we'll probably use quite often. The first one is probably boldness. So just by changing the boldness of my letters, obviously I make the letters thicker or thinner. Be careful that you don't go too thick, because as you can see here, I lost the hole in my E. So I'm gonna lower the boldness so that the hole in the E is a little bit more pronounced. Sweet. Another function that might be used often is, let's say for instance you have a lot of text. So I have Mr. Let is a teacher, because I am, and I have it on 2 different lines. Okay, well now I can also change the alignment of this. So if I go to align here, I go center. Now Mr. Let is a teacher is aligned. I can also go to the right, obviously, and if you do justify, it evenly spaces out all the characters. So that looks kind of weird. So I'm gonna go with just center. Okay, is a teacher is kind of far away from Mr. Let. I have a little bit of a space here that I don't want. If I just go down here where it says with character and line spacing, I think just by looking at the graphic you can tell what each thing does. So I'm gonna make my line spacing 80% to bring is a teacher a little bit closer. Looks good. Sweet. I'll just show you quickly what character spacing does. If I do 80%, it brings all the characters closer to each other. Ew, don't like that. So I'm going to keep it at 100%. And width changes the size of your letter. So obviously it makes it kind of wide. Don't like that. Undo. So explore. It might work better with your fonts depending on what you choose. Okay, and then another thing that you guys can edit with your fonts, if you guys go to size and shape, you guys will obviously have the size of your font. I'm going to put a little slant on Mr. Let as a teacher. I'm going to go 30 degrees. Ooh, looks good. It looks nice and slanted like that. I kind of like the way that it looks. Okay, editing the size of your fonts. Obviously, if you are on the select tool and you have your font selected and you move one of these corners around, obviously it works and it skews your words. When we need to get more specific in terms of cutting on the vinyl cutter and the piece of vinyl that you cut off, we need to focus here on width and height where we type it in. Now, I don't have keep aspect checked off, so you have to be careful here. If I change the width 10, because let's say the piece of vinyl that I'm cutting is 10 inches, and that's the size of the surface that I want to put this on, I put 10 inches, it gets all skinny, right? It gets all skewed like that. Now, let's say my aspect ratio is nice. That's how I like the look of my font. If I click keep aspect on, now if I change the width to 10 inches, my height will also change. So you see my height change so that my words didn't get all skewed, all right? So right now the size of my font is 10 inches wide, 5.9 inches high. All right, so let's say the surface is that size, then that is what I want to make my font, okay? Cool. Now we're going to get into the edit tool. Right now the edit tool does not work on my font, so right now you can see nothing's happening with my font. I'll show you guys how we can edit your font a little bit more specifically later, but I might as well show this to you guys on how we do this with an image. So I want you guys to choose an image that represents you. Now, Mr. Let, I'm a woodworker. I also teach woodworking at Vincent, so why not go with trees? Now, we gotta be careful here, you guys. You don't want to choose an image that has too much texture, too many colors and hues. Like, for instance, this picture here. Nice looking picture, don't get me wrong. It's nice and balanced, it's very unified, it utilizes lines very well. But if I try to use this image, so I go to copy image, I go back to CutStudio, and I go Control V to paste it. It's just asking if you guys want to save this image. You don't have to save, so I'm just gonna click don't save, press OK. Alright, and there's my image now at the bottom here. Okay, that's not going to cut anything. The vinyl cutter would not recognize this. So what I have to do is I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go to Image Outline. Now it turns my image black and white. You can play around with the alignment image density to show more or less detail depending on what your image is. And then once I have this, I'm going to press Extract Contour Lines. Boom. Now all that blue highlight is the line that's actually going to cut on your vinyl cutter. Now you can see here what I'm talking about with all that texture. First of all, the vinyl cutter, it would take it like 20 years to try to cut all those little tiny little lines there. And then even after the vinyl cutter has cut all those lines, I have to weed away the material that I don't want to keep. That would take me another 20 years. this is just not an image that would work. It's going to give me a headache. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. I'm going to delete this one. What kind of image you should be Googling or Google imaging is either go trees, then vector. Because what vectors is going to do is it's going to give you like a cartoon image or solid colored images. Like for instance, this tree here, like these, compared to the other picture, this is maybe about 5 or 6 different colors, 5 or 6 different tones, whereas the other one was probably like 100. You can go, it gives you something like this where it'll be just straight up black and white. If you want just straight up black and white, you can also type in silhouette. And you'll get a silhouette of trees as well. Alright, so I'm going to go with something like this. Okay, looks pretty good. It's a solid color. I can easily get a good outline with an image like this. So I'm going to press copy. I'm going to press Control V. Don't save. And then I'm going to have this image on here. Nice. Alright, so I'm going to right click on this now. I'm going to go image outline. And I'm going to play around the alignment image density to try to see or, get more detail in this. I'm going to press extract contour lines. I'm going to press OK. Now I have the outline of my tree here. Now this is something that's much easier to cut on my vinyl cutter. Doesn't mean I don't have to do any editing to this yet. This image here, you guys can keep as a reference if you want. I kind of already have an idea of what I want my decal to look like, so I'm just going to delete that image, and now I'm just going to edit this guy. Alright, so now I'm going to get into specifically editing this image. Now if I click the edit tool here, you're going to see that all these points appear on the tree. Now, CutStudio is a vector program. So basically what that means is that it works with points and it works with lines. So if I click the edit tool and I go ahead and click one of these points, so it's blue highlighted, so there's a blue square around it, and I move this line, whoa, now all the lines follow it. And I can really get specific in the way that I edit my image. So if there's something that you want to fix with this, it's actually really easy to fix. So you can see here, if I click out, I've kind of moved all those lines all over the place here. So I'm going to go ahead and undo so that I can edit this properly. So the things that you want to look for in your image here is points that are not connected. So for instance, right here, excuse me, my vinyl cutter would cut this line, but then if I try to weed away the background here, everything around here, I would end up accidentally catching the tree and probably peeling away the tree, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to go to edit tool. If you click and highlight a point, so it's blue squared, and then you right click on it, you'll get this menu here. Honestly, at the end of the day, you guys, if you use common sense and you do a little bit of self-exploration yourself, you'll figure out what most of these functions do. For instance, if I go to snap to nearest point, well, what it's going to do is it's going to connect the point that I didn't have connected before. Just go undo there, alright? If I go to snap nearest point and I have it connected now, let's say this is not the point that I wanted to connect, or I want to maybe, connect it somewhere else. If I right click on it, I go divide the point. Now I have 2 different points. So now if I bring it over here, I go divide this point, move that image away, and then I go over here and I go to snap to nearest point. Now bang, now I've made a completely different shape on its own, and if I wanted to, I could connect these 2 bad boys right here. Snap to nearest point, bang. Alright, rule of thumb, you guys, the less points you have, the simpler your shape. So for instance, I have all these points in this shape here, and I can kind of move and edit these points around. Sure, cool, but I'm trying to make it just like a simple square or a rectangle. Well, then delete some of these points. You don't need all these points. So I'm just going to draw a box and I'm going to delete some of them so that I only have 4 squares. So now it's much easier to make a simple shape. You see that? Alright, another thing I'm going to show you guys here. This little white circle that's connected to this point, that is called a handle. So what a handle does is it changes the curvature of your point. So you can see here my line is kind of curved now. If we look at this corner here, it's all nice and sharp, right? Well, let's say I wanted to make it a rounded corner. Well, if I click and then I right click on it and then I make it a curved polyline, boom, now I have 2 handles here, and now my corner, instead of being a sharp corner, it's a nice curve. So again, if you want to edit your image to make it a little bit more specific, make it curved in a certain way, use curved polyline. So now I went from a circle, you guys, or sorry, I went from a rectangle to an oval shape. Alright, Bang. So now instead of a rectangle, I got a little oval there. So when you guys are copying your image over, that's what I want you guys to look for. Anything that looks weird that should be connected, for instance, this guy, I'm going to delete that little point because that's weird. And then I'm going to go ahead and snap to nearest point. So now that guy is connected. All right. Oh, I got another one. Right click on it. Snap to nearest point. All right. I got another one right here. Look at these guys. These look weird. So I'm going to delete this guy. I'm going to delete that guy. And then I'm just going to connect these two. Boom. All right. So you might have to do a little editing here. As you can see, my tree has a lot of editing to do. So I'm going to take my time with it. All right. So I have, let's just say that I finished editing my image and I have the two trees that I like the way that it looks. I'm going to select my select tool and then I'm going to move it in a certain place around my font. So Mr. Le is a teacher and I'm going to put some trees underneath it because I'm a woodworking teacher as well. All right, let's say that this is where I like it. I'm going to group all these together now. So I'm going to select my trees. I'm going to hold shift. My cursor should turn into that plus sign. I'm going to select my font. All right, and then I'm going to go to object, group, and then I'm going to group. And then now all of these are one thing. And then I can take a look at the size of my thing. Now before I said my surface was 10 by 5, right? So I would probably want to change my height to 5 inches. Ooh, not 65, 5 inches. So it changes the size of my decal. My width also happened to change. So before I said my width was 10 inches. So I could fit 2 decals on here if I wanted to. If I want to go Control C, Control V. Now I can do 2 images in there. And then I'm going to group both of these guys together. And I can see that the width is still 8.5. So the surface that I would want to put this on would be able to fit these 2 stickers. Okay. Uh-oh. So I'm going to delete one of those. If I wanted to edit this font though, like let's say for instance, before I used to have like a little hole right in the middle of Mr. Le here. All right, what I got to do first is I got to ungroup it. So I'm going to ungroup this guy. Bang. All right. And before there used to be a hole here, I can easily just draw a hole there. And then I can put it in a way. If I click again, I should get the circles. That allows me to rotate. And I can edit it nicely. Perfect. Now I select this guy. I select Mr. And then I group these two together. So now that they move together. If I didn't do that, and I move Mr. Le, oops, and I move Mr. Le around, you can see the circle doesn't go with it. So if you want to keep yourself organized, make sure you guys are grouping your objects together, all right? Cool. Let's say I want to specifically edit something with this font. So if I click edit tool and I click on it and nothing's happening, well, if I want to fix something, for instance, let's say this guy right here, I want to make this dot its own thing. I gotta right click on it. I gotta make sure that I'm on it. Oop, select tool. Right click, I'm gonna convert to polyline. Bang. And then now if I use this edit tool, now I have points here. Okay, I can't seem to make it its own object. It's still connected. Guys, right click, divide the point. Now it's separated. Right click, divide the point. Now it's separated. All right, and then now I can connect that, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect these two. Boom. So now these are 2 separate objects. There's a little space in there between them. All right. So for your decal and your basically your sticker, you guys, I want you guys choosing a font and typing your name, and then choosing an image that represents you. As a reminder, don't choose something that has too much texture. When you're Google imaging it, choose vectors or silhouettes. Vector or silhouette, because then it'll get you an image that will give you much less headaches. All right. That's pretty much all I have to say about doing your decals and your designs. There will be a follow-up video on how to design your t-shirt because it's a little bit of a different process, and I won't also be talking about all the basic functions that I talked about in this video. All right, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you guys later.